Not gonna lie, I didn't invent it. I stole it from Iron Bullet, but I just pretend like I invented it.
All right, hey guys, welcome to the third video for Smogon's official Rate My Team YouTube channel. We are bringing you something a little bit different today. I know you guys wanted us to do OU teams for forever, but today we're doing a UU team.
Hi, I'm Christo. I rate a good amount of UU teams. I've been doing it for a while, and I've been playing UU for a while.
Hi, I'm Cream. So I've been rating UU for quite a while, official team rater, and I'm famously known for EQing my own heat man.
So we have a team here that's been submitted by user Mr. Surgeon, who very nicely handed me a team at the very last second. It is a Mega Beedrill team that's not loading properly on my screen, so let's see what we can do about that. There we go. Okay. We've got Mega Beedrill, Tentacruel, Entei, Whimsicott, Suicune, and Metagross. I'm going to turn it over to these guys because they're the experts to talk about the team a little bit generally first, and then talk about the changes that they want to make one by one. Go for it, guys.
Yeah, I think I like whoever submitted the team. I think they did a very good job. I think they handled for the majority of threats very well, but there are a couple things that make it it will probably play a little awkwardly, and there are just some flaws in terms of like no ground resist.
Quite a few Pokemon weak to ground, Entei, Tentacruel, Metagross, and then there's also the fact that the main switch-in is Suicune, which is not Sleep Talk, so it's got 2 free turns to abuse, and a lot of ground types won't feel pressured by it as much when it's asleep. And the other thing I noticed was that it's lacking a good solution for Volt turn teams because the Volt switch-in is non-existent, since it's basically Whimsicott, which is the only electric resist, and Whimsicott isn't solid whatsoever, and they've got 2 Pokemon weak to electric, so it's not the best.
Yeah, so let's start with Beedrill. Let's go for it.
Beedrill set is pretty much standard, and basically U-turn, protect, the poison jab, drill run, really standard set, commonplace right now. Adaptability U-turn does just a lot of damage, and it's a good pivoting move in general. And protect is to ensure you get free Mega off, so that, you know, when it comes in, Beedrill is base 75 speed, which is very slow in UU terms. When it Mega evolves, it's almost a 2x speed boost, so you can protect to confirm the Mega evolution is really important. And it also gives a lot of good scouting abilities to Beedrill. Last slot Drill Run is pretty common. It hits poison types for super effective damage and steel types for super effective damage. They both resist or immune Beedrill's dual stab. Krista, what do you feel about Drill Run versus Knockoff here?
I mean, Knockoff is certainly an option, but I think for this team in particular, and most teams in general in this meta, Drill Run is definitely the preferred move here, especially because I feel Cobalion is a very common threat. With Knockoff, that means that it's pretty much always setup fodder. Drill Run can at least revenge kill, especially on a slow team where Beedrill's the speed control. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely think Drill Run is the preferred move in this meta, and especially on this team.
Okay, so moving on to Tentacruel. This is another quite standard set in UU. It's a defensive set with Black Sludge as the item for, you know, just recovery. Liquid Ooze is the ability, so that common grass types like Celebi that use Giga Drain and or Leech Seed will always make sure they get punished for using those moves against Tentacruel. Set is pretty standard, and Rapid Spin and Scald are staples, with Toxic Spikes being in there for added utility and Acid Spray in the last slot. Crystal, we were thinking about changing this to an offensive variant, right?
Yes, we were thinking changing it to an offensive variant, preferably just enough speed for Crocodile. So around 192 EVs with a Timid Nature hits 312, which will outspeed Crocodile. And typically on a offensive variant, you'd just drop Toxic Spikes and put on Ice Beam or Sludge Bomb or Wave. I'm not sure if it gets Sludge Wave as coverage.
It gets Sludge Wave, yeah.
So it'll be 64 HP, 252 special attack, and 192 speed with a Timid Nature.
Okay, so we've got 64 HP, 252 special attack, 192 speed with a Timid Nature, so that's 312 to outspeed Crook, right?
Typically, you would run just enough. You'd probably run just max speed because you want to outspeed Hydreigon. But because we are in a Hydreigon suspect, I think just going with just enough speed for Crocodile is the best way to go here. Although, if you really want max speed, I think it's usable. 64 HP does not go that long of a way. I'd say Sludge Wave is better, especially with the prevalence of Sylveon and Tentacruel being a very standard switch-in, because UU has a lot of problems with Fairy Resist and stable Fairy Resist. Honestly, Toxic Spikes could even work too. I mean, because on most offensive Tentacruels, like, the coverage does matter, but on this specific team, I don't think it matters as much. But that slot is pretty flexible in my opinion.
Whenever those teams that use offensive Tentacruel are like more inclined to have it as one of the like maybe one or two fairy resist, then you need it, because then it's going to be your only thing that's going to switch into Sylveon and you want to beat it 100%. But on this team with Beedrill, Entei, Tentacruel all acting as fairy resist, and as well as Metagross, we really don't need it. So, but it's still a good option nonetheless.
So I just wanted to point out that Tentacruel is mainly used because it's just like the UU tier needs it, and it's the only viable option usually.
So we 100% need hazard removal on this team. Tentacruel was already on here, so we decided not to change that.
He thought, let me build around Beedrill, and then with Beedrill, you know you need a good hazard remover, and Tentacruel is definitely your best option there, so I totally see where he's coming from. So should we move on to Entei?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to Entei. So Entei, it's just a standard choice band set, which is pretty much only viable ones outside of some really niche options. Forced into an adamant nature, because when you're using extreme speed, it's an event move, if I'm not mistaken. So you're forced into adamant with a shiny Entei, and it's really strong right now because Sacred Fire is just an extremely good move. It's got no drawbacks aside from really low PP and a small chance to miss, but it's got no drawbacks outside of that, as opposed to Flare Blitz, which gives you recoil. Fire Blast has got a decent chance to miss. Sacred Fire has basically none of that, and instead it gets a really good buff in the sense that it has a 50% chance to burn the opposing Pokemon. So if you're switching in, say, Haxorus, if you switch into Sacred Fire and you get burned, that's pretty bad. Most switch-ins to Sacred Fire that are immune, they're all hit super effectively by Stone Edge, and Stone Edge is 100 base power, so it's really strong. Extreme Speed is just really strong. It's the strongest priority in the game, especially with the choice band. For the last slot, most Enteis go Flare Blitz because, as I mentioned before, Sacred Fire only has 8 PP, so you're not going to be wanting to use it all the time, especially if you're against like Suicune, which has pressure. So that minimizes the amount of Sacred Fires you have by a lot. Flare Blitz is a good option because it's slightly stronger and it provides you some decent cults, like it provides a 1-hit KO on Nidoqueen, but it comes with recoil, so most Enteis don't really use it unless they need to.
I think you touch on everything pretty much. The only thing I'd probably add would be about Flare Blitz, and you pretty much touched on everything. The only other alternative is like Bulldoze, and that's just not a good move in general, and it doesn't hit much.
In this tier, it doesn't hit anything, but I think in OU, people use it for Heatran or something, right?
When you want a fire type, you should just be using Heatran.
Yeah.
Whimsicott. Okay, so with Whimsicott, we were looking at this team, and we noticed, okay, the builder thought, okay, I need a Dragon Resist, and I need a water switch in, like a grass type or like a water absorb Pokemon, so he goes with Whimsicott. I think it was a very good option, but the only problem I had with it was that Whimsicott it struggles a lot in this meta because it has a lot of competition with other fairy types like Sylveon and Diancie, and it's also, because it's an offensive variant, it's also just not very bulky, and something like if a Suicune uses Scald and you switch in and it gets burned, it's practically useless, or it uses Calm Mind, or not even Calm Mind. Giga Drain does very pitiful damage, and it's just usually not a consistent switch in or answer to any water type at all, like Milotic has Ice Beam and such. We were thinking about changing to Celebi, which is like the staple water answer and just staple Pokemon in general in UU right now. It's very strong. An S-rank Pokemon, debatably one of the best Pokemon in the tier, possibly as good as Hydreigon. That's a discussion for another day though. And just with a standard Nasty Plot set, because this team did lack some steady win conditions, we have Suicune next, I believe, and that did have Calm Mind. We'll touch on that when we get there. With Nasty Plot, we just want to go with a standard Nasty Plot with dual stabs of Psychic and Giga Drain with leftovers, and max special attack, max speed for, and special defense for Porygon Z or whatever. So in the last slot, typically in the Hydreigon meta, Dazzling Gleam was the predominant fourth move because Psychic and Giga Drain do not hit Hydreigon at all, and it walls, and you also outspeed Hydreigon unless it's a Choice Scarf. So Dazzling Gleam is a great lure. But now that Hydreigon is being suspected and it's not usable in the ladder, we have options like Shadow Ball to hit Cresselia and Bronzong, or you can go with Leech Seed that pressures other quote-unquote counters like Toxic Blissey.
If you're looking at the other members we have right now, like Beedrill and Entei, they're both Rocks weak, and Tentacruel has no stable recovery outside of Black Sludge. So if we Leech Seed a Pokemon and we switch into one of those few, then they can get some health back for what they lose through entry hazards, or just in general, if they're pretty weak, they can get some health back if need be.
Certainly on this team, Leech Seed's definitely the way to go, especially because Pokemon like Cresselia and Snorlax, Pokemon like that, we do not deal with fantastically. So being able to Leech Seed and pressure them that way is far more usable than Shadow Ball, which I think is good, but not on this team. So yeah, Leech Seed's the way to go.
One thing to add on to what Crystal said generally about Celebi is that for the first slot, another decent option I believe is Recover, because it just lets you stay in for longer, and if you're getting whittled down by, let's say, like non-toxic Lissy, you can just recover all the seismic tosses off, and you can beat it one-on-one just 100%, and you should be able to do the same with Leech Seed. But yeah, I'm just putting that out there so you can beat. It's an option that allows you to beat Stall quite well. Same with Leech Seed. So yeah, just putting that out there. It's an option.
Yeah. Fun fact though, you need Toxic on Blissey to beat Celebi, because after you get Nasty Plots up, and due to Blissey's high HP stat, when you Giga Drain and Leftovers, you essentially get the same amount of HP you would from Blissey's Seismic Toss. So you pretty much always win that.
Okay, Suicune, let's see. So I can get why Suicune is added here, because at this point, if you're looking at the rest of the team, you might notice that Entei is quite threatening. And so yeah, one of the best Entei counters in this tier is Suicune. The problem we have with Suicune here is that when we were looking through this team, Christo and I, we noticed that this was basically the only setup sweeper, and like most likely the main win condition that this team had. But it was also being used as a defensive pivot for a lot of threatening Pokemon like the ground types, which were very threatening to this team before all of the changes, which Suicune doesn't have Sleep Talks, so whenever it rests, it gives 2 free turns to the opponent, and essentially every ground type wall breaker could just use that as an opportunity to come in and just do a lot of damage.
We decided
to change this.
Yeah, we decided to change to Diancie, and our reasoning behind that was we dropped Whimsicott, which was our main Dragon Resist, as well as we also still needed that Fire Resistance, and we also needed Stealth Rock, because we'll address why we didn't like Metagross in the last slot. So Diancie was actually the perfect member for the team. It also is Heal Bell, so it can still constantly switch into Entei quite well, because you can, if it burns you, you can Heal Bell it off, and it's doing a very minimal amount of damage. And you have Diamond Storm to obviously threaten it. We thought that was a very good member on the team. It is Stealth Rock, Moonblast, Diamond Storm, and Heal Bell. And EVs on Diancie, it's not a very common Pokemon. Not many people use it. I'm personally a fan. And EVs are not really, there's nothing set in stone. It's also something that's very team dependent. I sometimes copy the Ferrothorn spread, 88 defense, 88 EVs in defense with a relaxed nature, because you don't want to weaken Moonblast or Diamond Storm, and you obviously do not want to weaken the defense like special defense. So you go with a relaxed nature, it's already pretty slow, and then 168 EVs into special defense and 252 HP.
So that would be actually 88 in defense.
Did I misspeak? I meant 88 if I didn't say that, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 252 HP, 88 defense, 168 special defense, relaxed.
Yep.
Item?
Leftovers.
Because anybody thought, any weird options like Rocky Helmet might be better on this.
Yeah.
Diancie has no recovery in its moveset. So the only recovery it'll be getting is either from Celebi's Leech Seed or its own leftovers. And we can't be relying on Leech Seed for recovery throughout a match. So for long term, so to be more solid in the long term against Entei, we had leftovers so we could just have some recovery, which is really important on any defensive mon in general. So yeah, not just Diancie.
Yeah. Definitely always use leftovers on any DNC unless you're using some like Trick Room Life Orb set. So the
Okay,
last
last
slot,
one.
it was
Yeah,
Metagross, but we ended up changing it to a
oh, wait.
Calm Mind Cresselia. We did not think it was particularly needed on this team because Metagross's main niche, unless it's a choice band set, is a Stealth Rocker that resists Fairy types and Psychic types. I guess, but mainly Fairy types because there's also like Crocodile and such. And that was honestly just not very needed on this team. We had actually 3 different Fairy resists, which is kind of lucky. It's kind of random. That's not very common in UU. So the use of Metagross was honestly not very needed. But also something that Metagross did do well for the team was provide a Psychic resist, because we do have 2 poison types, and usually you need some good Psychic resist when you have 2 poison types like that, and Metagross did well there. But something like a Choice Band, a Crocodile, or a Nidoqueen can really run rampant, especially with that offensive Whimsicott, which can take like pretty much half from an Earthquake or a knockoff. So Cresselia did pretty well there, and we added a Colberberry on the Calm Mind set as opposed to the standard leftovers, because the team did still struggle a bit with Crocodile. The set will be Calm Mind, Psyshock to beat other Calm Mind users, and Moonblast to hit dark types like Crocodile and Sableye, and then we have Moonlight as our healing option. The EVs will be 252 HP. We will have 56 speed EVs suffices, as it will outspeed Modest Sylveon, 200 defense with a bold nature, and 56 speed. Now that we see the team, we see the total team at a glance, things to look out for, I'd say, if you were to use this team and you were to ladder with it, would be the biggest threat I see would be a Curselax, just standard Snorlax with Rest Talk, Body Slam, or Return and Curse. And that's also where Leech Seed comes into play, and also Acid Spray on Tentacruel. So even though, like, I'd say Snorlax is a pretty big threat, I still think it's, with good play, it's beatable. But yeah, I just wanted to add that because I'd say that's the biggest weakness to this team.
Yeah, I agree. Another decently big threat I could imagine would be actually Doublade, because our only real ways of beating it properly are NT and Tentacruel, but Doublade has no recovery, and it's going to try to switch in on a lot because it's mainly used as an offensive pivot. So essentially, if it ever tries to switch into Beedrill or Cresselia, you could play around it well. So good play is definitely an easy countermeasure.
I'd say a third Pokemon to look out for would be Cobalion, Shuckaberry Cobalion. We do have a Tentacruel and we do have a Cresselia, but since it is an offensive Tentacruel, and depending on specific circumstances, I think a Cobalion could cause trouble, and Cresselia, since it doesn't have leftovers and Cobalion is known for flinching a lot, it is a shaky counter, but overall I think it's able to be dealt with because it does not set up Sword Xanthus quite easily, and we still have countermeasure like Celebi lives 1 and Psychic does a ton, Tentacruel lives, we have Drill Run to Revenge Kill, and Cresselia can always muscle through as long as it doesn't get flinched.
Yeah, so does either of you have any closing remarks? Anything you want to say about the team in general or just this conversation? Anything else you'd like to add before we close it out?
Just shout out to the person that sent the team in. I do think it was a very well-built team.
Just real quickly, that was Mr. Surgeon from the RMT chat showdown.
Cool. Yeah, I do think he built a good team. I see a lot where he was coming from throughout building it, and I think he has a lot of potential.
Yeah, for me, likewise, I thought I could understand a lot of the reasoning behind his choices for his original team, and that it was, looking at the team itself from a glance first, I thought it was decently thought out, except for the fact that it had quite a few gaping weaknesses, which we actually didn't really notice at first until we looked at it. So yeah, shoutouts for actually being able to build a decent draft. So yeah. Okay. Also, thanks Tibbs for having me here. Thanks Crystal for working with me on this. There are a couple other
thanks to
people.
both of you for joining me today. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you would like to submit a team to be rated on our channel, please send us an email at rmtcast@gmail.com. We'd love to get more UU teams, more RU teams. I know Ryoma's been itching to do a video for a little while. Anything else you guys want to throw at us? I know we've been getting teams in the email in the last couple of weeks. Awesome. Some of them are going to get rated, some of them aren't, but please keep sending them. We're super excited that you guys are submitting stuff to us. If you enjoyed the video, leave us a like, subscribe, share with your friends. If there's anything you would like to see us cover specifically, leave a comment below or send us an email and we'll address it on our next video. Otherwise, we will see you guys next time.
Yeah, see you.